And we'll call this meeting to order. This is the Rutland Town Planning Commission. This is March 10th of 2022. Welcome, everyone. Let's start the meeting tonight with a Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it
stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, at the top of the agenda is approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Hey, Jerry.
Second it.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, no public here tonight and don't really have any new business tonight. I guess we'll move right on down to old business. And Jerry, you on that subcommittee
For the building
for the building?
ordinance, I never heard anything about that. I mean, I guess, Howard,
We haven't done anything. You and I and Andy are on it. Nothing is.
we haven't actually gotten
It's
together
out
yet.
No, it hasn't happened.
Guess we
I've been busy. I didn't call Andy or anything. And
Okay.
Okay, maybe I'll drop him an email.
And I could even stop down here and we could meet with him on the phone or something if you want to do that some afternoon.
Again,
Okay.
I have a little comment, not directly about the committee, but, and I have to apologize. I saw something that I thought was important and I put it aside and I cannot find it, but it was something from the town that mentioned a building permit, as if the town required a building permit. And it wasn't about the permit. It just mentioned information that was on a building permit, and I don't know what I did with or where it came from. But it was not a formal, not anything I got as a member of the planning commission. I don't know. Is anyone else familiar with that?
Yes, Bill has them in his office.
They're on the website.
Oh, okay.
And
We have a building permit right now. It just doesn't have a lot of weight at the moment.
Okay.
and there's no enforcement of it.
Right.
that's going to be the enforcement. That's going to be a tough one.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll be one of the bigger decisions for the subcommittee is the way statute is written right now. You have to have somebody overseeing this and making sure that, it's abided by. So that's where it starts stepping on, like, oh, is this zoning? Starts getting into that realm. So that's going to be a toughie. But I think the contact, and I'll send the contact to Andy at VLCT. He can walk you guys through that, the options and what we might be able to do to I don't think we can get around it, but maybe there's some examples around the state where other towns don't have zoning, and I've had trying to do this. Yeah. Norm, did you have something?
No,
Okay. Next, the subcommittee and the Enhanced Energy Plan. We haven't met with the Select Board Energy Committee yet, and the makeup of that committee will be changing after town meeting day. So John Paul would have to be replaced by someone. I think it's just two of them on that committee.
I think you said it was both John, Paul, and Joe DiNardo.
Right. So they definitely need a new member, at least one new member. So we'll follow up with that after their reorganization meeting of next week, when they should be making that decision. The nuisance ordinance, really nothing new there. Unless anyone else has heard from people around town or anything else regarding this. Our plan was to work on the building notification first and then move down to the nuisance ordinance. So that will remain the plan for now. The report from the select board. The last meeting, was pretty heavy on town meeting stuff and nothing else that really affects the planning world. Mary did mention that I think the only thing of interest to us is that it looks like in the legislature, Rutland Town's going to be losing our one member district where we have a legislator who represents all of Rutland Town. Right now, that's the only people that person represents. It looks like Rutland Town's going to be split up. And it's going to become what's known as a 2-member district. So you have to know where you live to know who your legislator is. And so the northeastern part of the town and part of the eastern part of the town will become part of a city legislative district. And then it gets better. The rest of Rutland Town is right now, as the sausage is being made. The rest of Rutland Town will be with Rutland, West Rutland, Clarendon, and Wallingford.
Wow.
Legislative seats.
So is east-west delineated by Route 7? Or is it
It's either Route
something?
No, it's by Grove
Grove
Street.
Street,
North
yeah.
Grove Street.
And then
Like-
down to
Oh.
like Killington Avenue. So it depends on which side of Killington Avenue you live on, I think.
Okay.
If you're on the south side, you'd be in this crazy district with all those towns.
I saw a map today that popped up. I don't know if it was District 4 or something, but it showed, coming from the city, it was going up North Grove Street, just on the east side of North Grove Street. And it basically looped around and the Pittsburgh town line, and when it came back down, it came down Route 4 east and down, actually came all the way down to Route 7, and there was just a little chunk in the city down on Route 7,
Oh,
which by Nichols Street and whatnot, there was just a little block in there where they must have had to pick up some more
Oh.
numbers. Yeah, that's crazy. And that's the only, that popped up today.
So it's not any additional legislators. They're just
it's actually a
redistricting.
reduction
It's a reduction.
because
yeah.
Rutland keeps losing population. So,
I
so
see.
they need to do this every 10 years after the census is done.
I see.
And so the Senate seats weren't affected at all, but something had to give. So we had to give more to growing parts of the state so they could have more legislators because they have more people in the last 10 years, or between 2010 and 2020.
Pretty soon they'll just all be from Chittenden County.
Well, it's unfortunate that the census wasn't really taking, they 100%. I mean, that was a problem with the COVID and everything. The feeling is that there's a lot of people that didn't get counted in, didn't get picked up in
Mhm. Yeah.
10 years.
That said, I mean, the population of even Rutland County has been going down
Yeah, it has been going down.
for decades now. So it's not a big
But if you look
surprise.
at Rutland Town, Rutland Town is still building. I mean, Rutland Town, in a sense, is still a full town.
Right. And I'm not sure it's because of Rutland Town. It's probably because the city has lost
Right. And
population.
we got caught in the middle of it, basically.
Instead of them losing a seat, we lose.
But more the city than the town, I would say,
Yeah.
that lost.
So that'll be interesting to see how that comes out. Anything from the peanut gallery up there?
I'll yield to my senior.
Jim's not on the phone, is he?
Nope.
No, okay.
No.
So, next
have a-
on the agenda,
I have a
yeah,
question.
Norm.
This gets back to one of my pet projects. With respect to the enhanced energy plan, assuming that we still stick with the survey that was being considered, what do you think the chances would be if you approach the select board and just ask them for permission to, for us to go to the school board and just float the idea of an energy committee directly to them?
An energy committee of the school board?
No, excuse me, an energy club for the students of the school, rather than waiting for the survey and, all the complications now with the new board. And, that could be slowed down for 6 months. And it just seemed to me that if the school board, if they would let us go to the school board and just discuss it with them.
Hey, Norm?
Yeah.
Can you move your microphone closer to your mouth? It's so far away, we're having trouble hearing you.
Thank you. And of course, I hear it so loud.
Big difference.
All right, thank you. What I was just asking is if it would be possible to approach the school board and ask if Barbara and one or two others of us who feel it's the right thing to do could approach the school board and just suggest that they consider establishing an energy committee. I'm sorry, an energy club for whatever grades they think is appropriate, so that students can begin to understand energy conservation and the various programs that are now being, getting momentum and getting popularity, and join in. I just think, if you don't start there, I think it's the right place to start. And it's the right time also because, school is coming to a close. They can begin to plan for next fall. If we wait until our energy committee gets back up and running and the survey goes out, it's going to be another year, assuming. And I just thought it's such a minor item, but to me, an important one, that maybe we could get that go ahead.
Okay, I have asked the select board. I'd be willing to ask again. There is some reluctance to get too involved with or make many suggestions to the school board, since they're pretty autonomous bodies, the two of them. Norm, do you have any ideas for how you see this club, some of the initial projects or things it would take on?
Not really, but I suspect that that would develop. We need some input from the school board and the teachers. We might be able to get Steve Costello from Green Mountain Power to provide some education or some ideas on what they could do. Learn about various types of alternative energy, various electric vehicles. I mean, I think it takes care of itself, but it ought to be organized and it ought to be presented in a level that they can appreciate. Maybe they start in the 6th grade. I don't know, where they would start. I think that's a decision for them. And I think, as time goes on, there will be things that could help looking for the right word, help an energy committee or an energy program in the city, in in the town one way or the other, whichever it goes. But it's education as much as anything else, maybe ahead. And maybe they've got some, that we don't know about. Maybe they're already doing some of this stuff.
And how do I don't think I did a good job of this before. How do I explain this proposal when it wasn't in those 4 pages of actions and suggestions in the enhanced energy plan? I don't believe it was in there.
I know we've
Oh,
talked about it. We've talked
Yeah,
about it
we have talked about it.
for
And I
quite a
think
while.
in the context of maybe we're hoping that the information and excitement about energy conservation will filter up as opposed to down, filter to like their parents and other adults. Whoop. Yeah, we lost you. We lost your audio.
I think he lost us too.
Doesn't say muted, but you're pretty quiet. Sherman, did you want to say something?
I just wanted to say that I thought, I would think if we were going to make put forward an idea to do something like that, it would be nice to have just a short write-up and a list of things that we would expect to be addressed there, and a list of advantages or what is
I'm
the
back here.
result?
I'm sorry,
of it.
my
That's-
mic
I
went
think
dead.
that's what you were asking about, and
Yeah.
just what why are we doing, and what positive result do we think will happen because we're doing it, and also who's going to do it, and how it would be run or managed or presented, whatever term we want to use.
Well,
But I think we need to at least throw out there some possibilities of how it would be managed or how it would be run, and certainly not as here's the final plan
okay.
for it, but here's an example of how it could be done.
I think that makes sense. I mean, my sense was to present the idea and let the school, the teachers and the administration put it together. I mean, we can but it's just my thought to raising sensitivity.
Well, my only concern there would be we're going to the school board to give them something else to do, or to give the schools something else to do, to add something else that the schools would be responsible for, and that's probably not an easy sell now.
You can't hear us either. Yeah, I think you make a good point, Sherman. And if Norm, why don't we take this up in our subcommittee, the energy subcommittee,
Okay.
and come up with a plan?
Can
Did
you
you
hear
hear
us?
that, Norm?
I
I'm
think
sorry?
that's a no.
I'm sorry, my microphone is just misbehaving, so I'm missing half of what you said. It sounds like we ought to plan it a little more and not send Barbara ahead, and I'd be happy to join that process.
Okay, yeah, well, let's
I
kick it back
agree,
to-
Sherman, we need to. That's fine.
Okay. Okay, let's move on. I'd like to talk about the Pocket Park now. We had the public meeting last Thursday. It went well.
Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Can you hear us, Norm?
Read lips, Norm.
If you can hear us, you might want to call in, Norm.
We may get a little pressure to be there in person next time.
There we go. Let's move forward.
We just left the meeting.
I
Okay.
can actually see there are only 3 of you.
Yeah, we're so little in that one
Yeah.
shot. So, yeah, we did have the public meeting. And the grant and the whole process is winding down. So got some ideas from the public meeting. So those were included in one of the attachments you got. There's the 15 ideas that already were proposed, and then the backside, those are all from the public meeting. So I was thinking about going down the public meeting list and seeing which ones we want to add to the 15. And any other thoughts you have, because I'll be putting this together and presenting it to the select board. So from the public meeting, there was a suggestion for handicap parking spots.
That would be required, wouldn't it? Would that, Bill?
Not necessarily that I know. I mean,
Wouldn't be hard to designate a space though.
no. So
And that's all it would take.
like,
Right,
It doesn't have to be different
at a
size.
Right.
store or here, the handicap space, wherever you go, has to be the closest one to the ramp, like whatever,
Right.
that's where it has to be. So if we have like a walking path that gets on the bottom, then that's where it should be.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I think it's logical to do. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's not hard to do.
No.
Really. Make it difficult, so.
So
And
I
we-
didn't understand. I agree that it's logical, but is that something that's automatically part of a certain size parking lot for the city, or, I mean, for the town, or?
I don't think there's any.
I
think-
don't
I think there
think-
is. I think there is if there's a space with a certain amount of spaces, I think you're required to have a handicap space. I'm almost positive of that. It's like an ADA, American Disabilities Act requirement. I'm pretty sure.
May
That
depend
could be.
on the financing or something like that, though, of how it's done.
That could
Under
be, but
any
we're not
conditions-
talking,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, we're not talking about that many spots.
No, but it just seems logical that there would be a space there for, I mean, if we're making everything handicap accessible.
Right, but for that to kick in.
Right. So it's a
Um,
good suggestion that if we
It
don't-
is. Do you think at both ends we'd need it? The north end is mostly to get down to the boat launch. There would be a trail with steps is the preferred way. But it would connect to the other trails up there. That parking lot, there would be a connection.
I think it would kind of be more if it's a good idea, would be to see how those parking spaces lay out before we decide which one should be, you know what I mean? See what the kind of final plan is, but it makes sense, doesn't it? Have one that's,
Put it in the planning and then just whichever one it ends up being, this is.
Yeah,
what it becomes.
exactly.
We don't have to tell, we don't say that from the very beginning.
exactly,
That it's planned, but it's gonna go where what's best, most appropriate.
right.
Okay. The next suggestion was bicycle racks, someplace to park bicycles. And the gentleman specified what kinds are best and what kinds are easily broken into.
We didn't want the ones that like the wavy one.
The wave one.
Block the frame, not just the wheel. And
So sound like a good idea,
Bike rack for sure.
especially since we're talking about, connecting with West Rutland and doing more trail stuff there. Okay. So someone was concerned about the trails being ADA accessible. We made those that we could, and some were too steep that we couldn't, but they also had the suggestion that they be, they're made so that baby strollers can be pushed along them.
Be kind of the same with no, if it's ADA, couldn't a baby stroller go on it?
I would think so.
I'll double check on that. What we didn't have at the overlooks, we had, I think we've got 2, if not 3 overlooks. We didn't have benches there. They're all close to picnic areas, but we didn't have just a place to sit down and just be at the overlook and just not be, Norm is still throwing up his hands. So that probably makes sense too. Throw it in.
I think it does, yeah.
And then restrooms or Port-A-Potty came up. I think this group talked about, not having anything like that and having, carry in, carry out trash. Do we want to reconsider that?
What are we talking about? The restrooms or porta potties now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, trash is right after, is the next one. So
Right.
one and the same, really.
I think whenever you have those things, unfortunately, they're abused.
Yes.
So I think if you don't have them,
Maintenance is the problem.
maintenance would be
Yeah.
a big issue.
They seem like targets. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we still feel the same about trash, that
It's something like this, we could start without it, and then if we see there's a need for it later, it could always probably be.
yeah,
And
And
the same for
trash.
trash, we would ask people to carry out what they bring in.
to save on maintenance. I mean, I think that would still be a good selling point to the select board that,
Right.
next one is anti-vandalism measures.
Was there any suggestion of what that would be?
Trying to remember. I mean,
I think the 2 biggest things are going to be lighting and surveillance. That's
He probably made a mistake. He's having trouble getting on here. And he probably made
so.
called us. Because he hung up, right?
We'd have to look at different options for lighting. Whether we have like solar lights. That's what I was thinking. Like a solar powered LED light that's got a battery up on a pole somewhere would be easy. What people have brought up surveillance, but that's a different level of a challenge. So it can happen, but
You have to have power
that's the
and
problem.
internet.
Well, we can get the internet because we could potentially get like the point to point to the fire station.
Yeah.
So we could, and even potentially, we don't line of sight, but even to here, we could do that depending upon which one it is.
So there'd be that potential of needing power somehow to do the lighting, which, those solar lights at that windmere, coincidentally enough, we were just talking about, was, they do okay. They've maintained most of the night, but
that's got a good exposure.
True.
Where it would be, that won't have any problem getting sun.
yeah,
But the surveillance is a different, whether it's a hardwired camera, we'd have to run a data cable somewhere. Like, so if we had power, we could look at, because if it's up, I was thinking, up, if it's a 30-foot pole.
what about across the water at Green Mountain Power's building? It'd be so far, probably you wouldn't.
It'd be a long range, but there's cameras that, there's cameras that could do that, but it depends upon how
Complicated.
elaborate we want it to be.
Right.
Like that's really what it is.
yeah, I mean,
I'm sorry. Once we go to cameras, then we're talking about someone having a responsibility to look or to review. I don't know. Would it be
No.
constantly looking or would it be reviewing?
There would be no constantly. We don't have a 24-hour staff anywhere, so that's
Right.
not good.
Right. I don't.
There's a possibility. It could be part of the discussion, but that's gonna come down to just resources, like
mhm.
Yeah.
how to put it there.
And we're not suggesting that this is something that's being used at night, are we? I mean, it's
No,
No, I was going to say that. I mean, I
Yeah.
was under the assumption that we were thinking of, dawn to dusk use.
yes.
Maybe the signage should say that, and then beyond that, we just have to see what happens, right? I mean, we have to take it as it comes.
Yes.
Right. I think the police department, there's an expectation that it already patrols the area,
Right.
and it might have to step that up a little
Keep
bit.
in mind, by the time that comes to fruition, they're not gonna be here anymore.
Right, that's true. They're gonna be in the north end of town.
Well, hopefully they're still patrolling over here.
Oh, yeah, they will, but like if there's an issue, they're not gonna be next door to be able to go over there to deal with it, so.
Right, right. That'd be a difference. Okay, Norma, he's on my phone here.
Oh, okay.
I'm hearing, I hear you.
Yeah.
You're hearing pretty good, fairly well. I'm sorry, I don't know what went wrong with my microphone. But I'll do the best I can.
Okay,
Thank you.
yeah. And then there was some discussion about who would be maintaining it. And I think the prevailing thought is that that the rec department with volunteers would hopefully want to take this on. Excuse me.
That needs to be kind of part of the discussion before it's built, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to have some sort of plan.
I'm sorry. What is the plan?
And I think that along with that, what is maintenance? Are we talking about mowing of some sort or
Mhm. Could be.
trash pickup? I just think we need a little, at least an idea of what's involved.
And I understand that there's a neighbor that does, there's not much grass there,
Right.
but there is a neighbor that comes a couple times a summer to clean things up now. So maybe we can find more volunteers like that. Any other
So-
ideas on that?
So does that mean we're going to add that? We would like to add that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think it kind of has to be in there,
Okay.
even though we might not have it fully fleshed out. Right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Then at some point they want to know the costs. So to figure that out with them. There was some discussion about when the police do patrol down there, that they have the best sight lines possible. And we've already talked about cleaning up the area or taking some of the vegetation out so that there's more visibility. And just building some of the trails will help a lot, I think. And the Eagle Scouts in Stafford Forestry Program were volunteered to be part of this and to help construct it even,
And possibly do some maintenance.
possibly. And I think it was Mary that said, to mention that, remember, there have been a couple studies done and there are future projects that could connect to this. So,
Sort of already connected, isn't it? The bike paths are out on the highway, and so
yeah,
unless we do a complete different connection on the railroad or something.
so the map is over there, right? What we have right now are 8 parking spots. There's like 2, maybe 3 if there's very small cars there right now. And so we're thinking about expanding to 8, although Byron said that he can see where as many as 32 could be placed along Simons Avenue. I think he said 16 at each north and south.
And I think
Where?
it's on the right of way and things like how they're arranged and stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, it would be angled parking,
Oh, yeah.
I think he mentioned.
You mean going out to the business route 4 in
But-
front by,
Between the overpass and the corner and Business Route 4. The town owns enough land in there, enough right of way and land that,
that's a steep, they'd have to take a bunch of trees out and put some fill on. I would
Yeah.
think it's,
well, yeah,
The intention was to make sure that Johnson Energy doesn't become a parking lot, because that's
right,
important.
right. So, yeah, my question is, do we think 8's enough?
As park probably is.
I agree.
Question I would have, or
Mm-hmm.
question I would have is how would the neighbors react to 32 parking places?
Well, yeah, they were a little surprised with some of the things. Yeah, I gave Johnson Energy a call a month or so ago, and they were like, oh, with some of the ideas that we had. So, yeah, I think we would be pushing it with them if we did too much parking. But the other side of that is, not having enough and people using their lot.
It's another kind of address it when it happens, right? I mean,
Probably.
We need to provide them with some signage that says, this is private parking.
Hmm,
We may need to
be a nice
be
gesture.
a nice gesture just to provide the signage for them, as a preemptive effort. And maybe put signs along the trail, something like that, like little, no, did you park over there? Well, go move it.
Good idea. Okay. Mary Ashcroft said that I think she told me somewhere that she was hoping to get something done this year on this park, get some of the work done and have a park. So
what's the status of our looking at getting some financial support for this?
I don't know, Sherman. There won't be a lot from the town, and there will be a heavy push to get volunteers. And there's if we can wait a year or two or do this in phases, I think there would be some grant money out there. And we haven't talked about the historical stuff. Who's going to pay for that? So that I think I would definitely lump into a grant possibility of doing signage or online connections. What's that, Norm?
Well, I think there was a lot of interest in accentuating the historic aspects. I think you talked about a kiosk. We talked about the various different historical contributors or users of the area from the beginning almost up to now. And you mentioned a kiosk as a possibility.
Yeah, right now it's all lumped into one like historical category. But the price range, I mean, there's a wide range from having 2 or 3 signs with information to a kiosk to having an online site that you can connect to with a QR code or from home. So that's the decision point on that. And I think that's probably a different phase. But we can see what the select board says.
I left with the impression, I thought it was a terrific meeting and all the stakeholders really contributed effectively and concisely, and your notes of it were really good. But I left with the impression there was a lot of grants to seek and getting very much done and a lot of regulation to deal with, getting very much done before the end of the year. It's not likely.
Yes, like moving the watering trough. Yeah, we're dealing with the state right of way there. And even if we wanted to clean up the Meads Falls sign, spiff that up a little bit, that's in the state right of way, and they would have to approve that.
And even cleaning up the sides of the stream with removing the falling trees and that kind of thing requires state intervention of some kind.
Yeah, they would, it's called a stream alteration, and they would need to check it out.
So, I understand Mary's wish. I just didn't come away from the meeting with an impression that was what much was likely to occur, where there's a lot of planning and a lot of different groups, Green Mountain Power, etc.
Yeah, right. There is, something, there probably will be some sort of agreement with Green Mountain Power to get access to the land, whether it's a formal one, whether it's a sale, whether it's an easement. Yeah, that still needs to be worked out. You're right. So how do you think, should I just go to them with our complete wish list and say that this is probably a multi-year process?
I wouldn't call it our wish list. I would just call it this. That might tighten the lines of communication. My suggestion would be to call it the stakeholders points. Looks like it's a lengthy project. See what they say. Well, if you can get talking to Green Mountain Power and the historical people and this, or involve the recreation department to do some of that work.
Yeah. Okay.
I didn't hear everything he said.
Why did he not just call into the phone number for Zoom rather than your phone? That made a lot more sense.
Did you try the Zoom phone line, Norm?
I'm sorry? Yes, and I called it and I pushed the button and they said it's not working. I can try it again.
Yeah, well, why don't you?
Okay, sure.
Bill is looking out for you here.
So one of the things we could do, Barbara, is present this list as the plans for the entire project, and maybe we can find one or two things there that we can manage to have to start working on.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what.
Right.
And the other thing I just want to remind you that's on here, but Stafford, if you find something that they can do, in times they're very helpful. When I was working on the Rutland Creek path, they took down trees and chopped them up, and they did 2 or 3 weeks of solid work there that would have been costly otherwise. So if you can find something and define it, and where it's relative to what they're doing, they in the past have been willing to do work like that.
Yeah, and get it on their schedule.
Yes,
far enough ahead.
yes. So, and that was something we could start now for next, for September on.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't hear Sherman very well, but I can hear you.
I will speak louder going forward.
That's good.
Yeah. So, the grant is winding down. There's not a whole lot of money left in it. So not even enough to give the select board a real good idea of like costs of this. The full thing or broken down into phases even. So that may be one of the first steps too, is to find a consultant who can just give them some quotes. But we've got the ideas.
This seems this project, which is very intriguing, seems to have a lot of moving parts. And I think we need some outside expertise to coordinate all of it.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I think you're.
It's got to come
I
up
think
with the
you're
money.
mentioning-
I mean, it's always a key point, isn't it?
Mhm.
It's always nice to throw that around. It's nice to call council and get their opinion, but it all takes money. So that's the first step is to see where the hell the money's going to come from.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I agree, Jerry. But we've had consultants in the past, and if we could get a grant find out, I don't know who the consultant would be, but somebody's got to pull this together because there are a lot of moving parts, and I don't think we're capable of it time-wise or otherwise.
Yeah, and it wasn't in the scope of this particular grant either. So
Wasn't the scope of what?
the grant that I'm working on, that we're talking about, that's winding down,
Mm-hmm.
to figure all of that stuff out was just a preliminary scoping type design.
So it sounds like our next step is to try to identify some sources of a grant, of grants, and see if we can find one that would be acceptable to the select board, because most of the grants are going to require some level of investment on the town's part.
Yeah, we could do that. I also wanted to get from this group, a consensus on, does all of this look okay? Does all of this belong in the park? And should we strive to get all this included?
My opinion is that it would be nice if all of this was in the park, but we have to have a more detailed plan on how these things would be done and how we would finance it. And based on that, we can determine whether or not we can get all of this done, or we just have to do pieces of it.
I agree. So the first thing would be to get, like you said, would be to try to track down a grant if possible and have them help us decide what it's going to cost. And then we can remove or add or whatever
Right. Right.
parts and pieces, because it's definitely going to be a lot of money.
Mhm.
And there may be things in here that are really nice to have, but that just aren't, that we can very easily live without.
Mhm.
But we start with the picture that we've got and see where it goes.
Right.
I think
Yeah. Do we argue? What I'm hearing is that's if they ask, how does the planning commission feel about this? We say, we'd like to see the whole thing, designed out and costed out. Or do we say, let's just work on a small part of this and get it done? You know, maybe get one picnic table in there and some trails in a trail or two in the south end.
Well, I would, it sounds like if we take that approach, we're doing little, we don't have a plan for where we're going. I like the idea, and so it's the way Jerry said it, is that we find a way to finance having some organization look at it that is familiar with these to help us define what makes sense and what doesn't based on what we have on this list, and to give us some idea of what the cost would be and how we can phase it in if we can't pay for it all at once. And then proceed from there to look for additional grants to do it.
Mhm.
I'm uncomfortable with just with all these things we have here, because we don't know where they fit in. We don't know what's important and what's not important here. We just have a list, and I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying we should know. These are all nice to have, but maybe some of them just aren't necessary and aren't
Seems
worth the cost.
Seems
Well-
like if we start with a small piece too, and if it doesn't get the kind of, I just see it losing momentum if we do a small piece. If we do a small piece, it's only taking care of maybe a group of people. The other people feel like, well, I really wanted the launch for the kayaks, and they get slighted a little bit, and it just loses momentum. I think we're trying, I think the list as it is, and see what we can afford and not afford, and then make some decisions on whether or not it can be. And it's not really, it would be the select board deciding whether or not, right? Am I-
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, Yeah,
And
But
it
it's up to
could,
us to track down a grant.
well, it's not, but we can volunteer to do that if we want to take that role on. And keep in mind, these ideas, that they all came from very specific interest groups. You know, Rutland County Audubon and Trout Unlimited. And the kayakers were actually Boy Scouts. So they just weren't pulled out of the air.
Right.
These were people who came to us and said, you know, it'd be really great. And this is what the area needs. Hi,
someone
Dana.
has background feedback.
Hello?
It seems like when you first go in there, you're gonna be disrupting a lot of stuff, and it'd be probably nice to get the trails and things in order to get in there and do some work. It's gonna be a little messy to start with.
Right.
You've got taking trees out, moving material and so on and so forth, but maybe somehow get the base work in all at once, certainly all of the trail work.
Right. And I would think that like a consulting firm, that would be one of their first things. You would think they would say it's going to cost X amount to do the land work and the dirt work. And that's going to be the most disruptive and the most costly, I think,
Mhm.
because unless you get somebody to volunteer the machine, that's unlikely.
I'm kind of thinking that since, you know, this much work has been done, there's a list and there's a map of where this stuff would go. You know, we've done the survey and everything, that this could be handed to a consultant and they could come back fairly quickly.
Who's that again?
Who the consultant is,
I see. Yeah, sure.
I don't know,
I agree. I
but-
would agree.
you know, we're giving them a pretty complete list.
There's a
Yeah,
map. I mean,
right now-
Is that you, Dana?
No, that was
Norm?
me.
Okay.
Yeah. I think we're all sort of drifting in the same direction, is that we have basically, and I don't mean this sarcastically, a wish list that we came away with and Barbara very nicely compiled. And now we need some help with it. We need some professional guidance and I like Howard's idea as well, you know, maybe and find out whether Howard's idea of cleaning up the area, you know, the bank and the stream and the shoreline and all that, maybe that is the first step. But that's for somebody with much more expertise than we have. So I think we're all getting to be of the same mind. That, you know, we're not in a place to move forward now because we don't really know. and we need to find out what is the most economic, what is the most logical, and what is the most financially feasible way to go forward,
Mhm.
and what is a time frame? What is a realistic time frame to get this done? And you know, how many of these considerations that were raised can we adopt, and how many can we either postpone or have to say no, thank you?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Thank you for your discussion here. Because I know the select board's going to ask, well, how does the planning commission feel about this? Since the planning commission actually kind of started this project, you know, getting it organized. And then we went to stakeholders and the grant. Dana, are you?
I'm here.
Okay, hi, welcome. Do you want to join this conversation at all? Or
No, I don't have anything major to contribute. I looked at the items on the list and I thought that they looked reasonable to me. So,
okay,
I mean, it wasn't a terribly extensive list, and I thought that, you know, it's a good place to start.
okay. Thank you, everyone. And I'll keep you abreast of what the select board says.
You had a quorum without me, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, my apologies. I had a conflict. I thought it would be resolved earlier, but it took longer than I expected.
So we're down to announcements and news. Anybody have anything to share? That we haven't talked about? Okay, let's move down to the minutes of February 17th.
I move that the minutes be accepted.
Thank you, Sherman.
I'll
Second,
second.
go ahead, Jerry.
Thanks, Tina.
You're
Pretty
on.
clean set of minutes. Yeah,
Gotta have something.
I had one typo that now I can't find. I didn't print it out.
Good thing, because the Final Jeopardy song was almost over.
I don't know, Norm.
I don't know. It was minor. It was like, it should have been TO instead of DO in one sentence or something.
Well, you know,
We can live with.
just a bigger comment about, under the new business one, item number 7. It says the commission decided a survey of their parcel will be required in order to apply for a boundary line adjustment. I guess what that meant was it'd be a survey of their entire parcel that they're going to end up with. Not necessarily a survey of just their parcel, was it? Did they have some parcels that were already?
Parcel they're buying the piece from is on file.
That's on file, so
Yes.
they need.
They needed the southern edge and the road edge of their, so they have 2 of their corners because that abuts the property they're buying from. They didn't have the other 2 lines of their property.
So they would have to get their property surveyed to get it recorded, so we have both on record
Yeah.
to do a
They're
boundary
missing
line.
like one pin in that opposite corner, then they can measure the 2 lines and be done. Like that should be a really quick process, but yeah, that was what it was. They didn't have a full survey of their parcel.
Of the one that they live on.
Yes,
Now,
right.
yeah. Norm, did you find it? Oh, I found it, Norm.
No. Where is it?
Number 4, new business. It's just a survey will need to be done to determine.
Wow.
Yeah, it says do determine instead of to. Yeah, that's the only one I saw.
Mhm.
Puts you in a
Thank you,
new
Barbara.
category, Barbara.
Oh, boy.
Well, I wasn't gonna,
Yeah, I'm
I wasn't
relieved.
gonna highlight the other one. If Norm couldn't find his, I wasn't going to point out the one that's under approval of the minutes from the 27th. It's moved, not move. But since you've already flagged one and you've given Bill some work, I might as well not remain silent on the one that I did see.
Good
Where is this one?
catch.
I'm not gonna say it.
Thanks. Sorry, Bill.
Approval of the minutes, January 27th. Mr. Hunter moved. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
I was willing to not even reference that one.
But we pushed you over the edge.
You did push me over the edge, Barbara. I should have stayed on my other meeting.
I would like to make a motion we
second.
approve.
It's our
Approve
fault.
with,
You were asked if
Just we just do that?
you had something to say.
I make a motion we approve with corrections.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. You made the motion, right? Will you accept the changes?
Yeah.
So we can go with the initial motion.
Sure.
If you accept the changes, and then the second.
I didn't second it.
Nobody did yet.
Nobody did. But
Oh, nobody
I will,
seconded
I
it?
will second it.
Okay, okay, I'm sorry. New motion with those changes, second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, Bill. Anything else?
When's the
Okay.
next meeting? When's the next meeting?
Would
31st.
first. March 31st.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay,
Motion to adjourn.
okay, Howard.
Second?
And we
Second?
got a second with Dana, yep. And
I don't
Norm,
think that was me. That was somebody else.
It was me.
Norman.
Please don't confuse me with Dana.
okay, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.